Samuel 2, Part 3. Absalom's conspiracy. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses, so 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but there is no man designated by the king to hear you." Then Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were judge in the land. Then every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice." So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And at the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, "Please let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed to the Lord in Hebron." But Absalom sent secret messengers throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then say, 'Absalom is king at Hebron.'" When Absalom went, 200 men, and they went in their innocence and knew nothing. And while Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, and the conspiracy grew strong, and the people with Absalom kept increasing. David flees Jerusalem. And a messenger came to David, saying, "The hearts of the men of Israel have gone after Absalom." Then David said to all his servants, "Arise, and let us flee, lest he overtake us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword." And the king left 10 concubines to keep the house. And the king went out, and all the people after him. And all the servants passed by him, and the Shirites and the Pelethites, and all the 600 Gittites who had followed him from Gath. And Abiathar came up, and behold, Zadok came also with all the Levites. Then the king said to Zadok, "Carry the ark of God back to the city." The king also said to Zadok the priest, "Are you not a seer? Go back with your 2 sons, Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar." So Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of God back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. And then they went up weeping as they went. And it was told David, "Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom." And David said, "O Lord, please turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness." Hushai the Archite came to meet him. David said to him, "Return to the city and say to Absalom, 'I will be your servant. Then you will defeat for me the counsel of Ahithophel.' Are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you there? So whatever you hear from the king's house, tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. Behold, their 2 sons are with them there, Ahimaaz and Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send to me everything you hear." So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city just as Absalom was entering Jerusalem. David and Ziba. When David had passed a little beyond the summit, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a couple of donkeys saddled, bearing 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and a skin of wine. And the king said, "And where is your master's son?" Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he remains in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel will give me back the kingdom of my father.'" Then the king said to Ziba, "Behold, all that belonged to Mephibosheth is now yours." Shimei cursed David. When the king came to Bahurim, there came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shemaiah. And Shemaiah said, as he cursed, get out, you man of blood, you worthless man. The Lord has avenged on you all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned, and the Lord has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom." And David said to Abishai and to all his servants, "Leave him alone, let him curse, for the Lord has told him to." While Shemaiah went along on the hillside opposite him and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him and flung dust. Absalom enters Jerusalem. Now Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem with Ahithophel with him. And when Hushai, David's friend, came to Absalom, Hushai said to Absalom, long live the king, as I have served your father, so I will serve you. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, give your counsel. What should we do? Go into your father's concubines, and all Israel will hear that you have made yourself a stench to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened. And Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Hushai saves David. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, let me choose 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue David tonight. I will come upon him while he is weary and discouraged and throw him into a panic, and all the people who are with him will flee. I will strike down only the king. And the advice seemed right in the eyes of Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. Then Absalom said, call Hushai. Let us hear what he has to say. My counsel is that all Israel being gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba, and that you go into battle in person. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the counsel of Hushai is better than the counsel of Ahithophel. For the Lord had ordained to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, so that the Lord might bring harm upon Absalom. Then Hushai said to Zadok and Abiathar, send quickly and tell David. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were waiting at En-rogel. A female servant was to go and tell them, but a young man saw them and told Absalom. So both of them went away quickly and came to the house of a man at Bahurim who had a well, and they went down into it. And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth and scattered grain on it. After they had gone, the men came up out of the well and went and told King David. When Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his donkey, set his house in order, and he hanged himself. Absalom had set Amasa over the army instead of Joab. When David came to Mahanaim, Shobiah of the Ammonites brought beads, basins, and earthly vessels, wheat, barley, flour, parched grain, beans, and lentils, honey, and curds, and sheep, and cheese from the herd. Absalom killed. Then David mustered the men who were with him and set over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. And David sent out the army, 1/3 under the command of Joab, 1/3 under the command of Abishai, and 1/3 under the command of Attai. And the king said, I myself will go out with you. But the men said, you shall not go out. And the king ordered Joab and Abishai and Attai, deal gently for my sake with the young men Absalom. And the men of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great oak, and his head caught fast in the oak, and he was suspended between heaven and earth. And a certain man saw it. Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in the oak. Joab said, why did you not strike him there to the ground? But the man said, for in our hearing the king commanded, for my sake protect the young man Absalom. Joab said, I will not waste time like this with you. And he took 3 javelins in his hand and thrust them into the heart of Absalom. David hears of Absalom's death. Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said, let me run and carry news to the king. And Joab said to him, you may carry news another day, because the king's son is dead. Then Joab said to the Cushite, go, tell the king what you have seen. Then Ahimaaz said again, let me also run after the Cushite. And Joab said, you will have no reward for the news. Come what may, he said, I will run. So he said to him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran, and he outran the Cushite. And the watchman called to the gate and said, see another man running alone. The king said, it is well with Absalom? No, he said, is it well with Absalom? Ahimaaz answered, I saw a great commotion, but I do not know what it was. David's grief. And behold, the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up for you for evil be like that young man.